Continuing on from the SketchUp setup tutorial, we are going to create a layout template, and also we're going to set up the layout interface. So first what we need to do is select a template that we want to use. So a good starting template could be found under title block, contemporary, and A3 landscape, and then select open. Okay, so by opening that default template as a starting point, you can see if I go to the left hand side of this, the previous page, we've got a cover page and we have an inside page. So just letting you know there's already two pages created in here. Next, if we now look at adding extra tools, we can go to View, Toolbars, Customize, then Commands, and I'm going to add some toolbars that I think need adding. So things like starting a new drawing, opening a drawing, saving a drawing, insert is another great one, and if we just scroll down, undo and redo are used all the time, so we'll borrow those as well. Cut, copy and paste, you can add those. I personally just use the keyboard, standard window combinations, but you can add those if you please. If we keep scrolling down, grid snap is a good one, because sometimes you'll find that when you're moving objects in layout it snaps to grid, and it can be annoying or useful at the same time. So zoom to page is a really great feature, and also actual size, because actual size will give you exactly a one-to-one scale of the drawing on your screen, as if it was printed in front of you. So you can actually even measure off the screen to see what size it will be printed at. Duplicate a page is very handy if you just want to duplicate a page, and deleting a page is also handy. Next, object snap is really great for aligning views and objects, and show the grid is handy as well for just seeing what the grid looks like and where it is on the screen. Okay, so you can obviously come back here anytime and add more tools onto your toolbar. So now that the interface is set up, we're going to look at setting up the template. So I've got a logo here, and it's a generic logo that they've given us, and it looks like the logo is on the cover page layer. So it would be wise to put our current layer as to put the current layer as the cover page layer, so make that active by clicking in front of the word, and that puts the pencil in front of cover page, and that makes that layer active. So I'm going to delete the logo, and I'm going to insert my own logo. So I'm going to go to Insert, then from the desktop I've got a PNG logo, and it's possibly not the best logo for that, but it will give you a good idea on just how to use the logo. And see, when I'm moving that, it's snapping around. It's quite tricky to move it. It's snapping everywhere. So if I turn off object snap and if I turn off grid snap, you can see that it's moving a little bit better. Actually, grid snap was off, so I need to turn it off again. And you can see it just moves a lot more freely without the object snap on. So at any time, if I wanted to update my logo, since it is not quite the right color, I could go to File, Document Setup, References, and you can see the current logo is selected, but I could relink that to a different file. Okay, so that's relinked it. It's obviously a different aspect ratio. So in that instance, if it's a different aspect ratio, it actually would be better to insert it again. Otherwise you won't know how to get back to the original aspect ratio. So I'm just going to actually delete that, click on insert, insert that logo again, and you can see it there now, a lot easier and more useful to move around. So when I dragged in the top left corner or top right corner, I held shift, and that ensures that when I resize it, it maintains its aspect ratio. Okay, so we've created that now, the logo. That's quite good. Now if I wanted to edit the author's name and their address, we could go to again, actually no, text, customize auto text, because there's now smart text in LayOut. And if I go to author's name, we could go Joseph Cockcroft, and you can see the author now has updated. Our street address, we could just do maybe our postal box, PO Box 15663. That's in Dinsdale, and I might do it all caps. And we'll go Hamilton 3243. Phone number if you want to get a hold of us, and our email. Okay, so then we can do that also. The project title, we'll leave that blank because it's going to be whatever it's going to be for your project. Now if we go to the next page, the project location, again that's going to be unique each project, so we'll leave that alone for the template. And the project title again is going to be left alone. But you can see by changing the author over here that it's added Joseph Cockcroft there. So at any time you can go in and change the settings for it. It's got the correct date because that's also an auto text field. So if I double click on that auto text, you can see this is the tag that was written to access the auto text. So current date, you'll see it here. This is the tag, this is the text that gets presented. So at any time, for example, if I was to click on the a text tool, I could go and click to write some text. I could either write the tag, say for example author, so I just write that tag, click away, and it's going to replace author with my name. Or if I wanted to, I could go to text, insert auto text, and find the tag that I want to insert, and you just simply click on the tag, it inserts, and then it replaces the text with that. So it's a really awesome feature. It's kind of like keynotes, which you get in other CAD softwares as well. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with my template. The other thing I would like to do is make sure that whenever I draw something or whenever I create text or dimensions, that my settings are all set up. So if I click on the line tool, for example, right now I'm going to draw a line just to test it, and you can see that there's a fill on. It's hard to see on a white page, but there's actually a fill when I'm drawing that line. So just be aware that if you don't want the fill every time you use LayOut, click on the line tool, untick fill, so when you draw a line there's no fill. But if you like fill, of course leave the fill on, because you might want to fill it up. Okay. Be aware that you may want object snap on, because when you are drawing, object snap helps you find other endpoints and helps you line things up. So I'm going to turn my object snap on for my template. Grid snap I can leave off. Okay, so I'm happy with the line tool. You may want to check your other drawing tools. Next I'm going to click on the text tool and I'm going to set up my text. So I actually like, we have an architectural text that we use quite often. So I'm just going to find, actually no, I'll leave it as it is, Verdana. Most people have that. It's actually a nice text and the size is pretty good. So if I click on the label text and it's the same, if I click on the dimensions, I now want to just change my dimension style. So it's good to do this now before using your template, because otherwise you have to change it every time before you do your dimensions. So let's do this for the template, then you only need to do it once. So under shape style you can see we've got a start arrow and an end arrow. I like to use / and /. It's more architectural, but if you're an engineer and you want to use the dots, it really depends on what you would like to do. Next, if we go to dimension style, so I'm just collapsing all the other dialogues just for the moment. Expand dimension style. I want to untick display units because I don't want to see the units. I want to make it in millimeters. I want to make the precision 1. Of course, you may be different. You may want more decimal places. Leader text size. I prefer to have no leaders, but some people, when they've got small dimensions, they like to have a leader come away like that. Yeah, it just can be quite helpful for them. So it's up to you. I personally prefer just no leaders. Also for the dimension tool, so I've got the dimension tool active. Under text style, I would like to put the text in the center of the dimension, so you center the text. And then we are pretty good now. And that's basically it. So we've set up a few things here: the interface, the template, and a few of the dimension settings and style settings. So once you're happy with your template, you can now go to File, Save as Template, and then place it under My Templates. It's a good place to put a template. So we'll go Template, and then select OK. So we can now close that. So here's the close button. And if we go to File New, or the new button that we added, we can now go to My Templates, select Template, and then select Open. And it will automatically open with that template every time. If you know that you would like to use that template every time, like if you only ever use A3 sheets, you could go to Edit Preferences, and then you've got a thing called Startup, and you could select Use a Template. So use default template to create a new document, and you can see under My Templates you can select your template to always open when you start layout, which can be handy if you only ever use a single template sheet. However, if you use A3, A4 and maybe even A2, you might want to think about leaving that as open to getting started, because you might want to select a different template each time. So I'm going to leave mine as open getting started. Okay, so that is how you can set up layout.